Welcome to AbilityMKE Now. We are live on YouTube and we are creeping up the last few seconds here before our live broadcast on River West Radio. So just stand by one moment. Welcome to AbilityMKE Now. My name is Sue Roskopf and we are thrilled to be here with River West Radio. AbilityMKE Now is a show about integration, bringing people with disabilities and people that don't have a disability together, enjoying life here in the Milwaukee area. We all have different abilities, and here at AbilityMKE Now, we dive into this topic of diverse abilities. The concept of disability hits a wide range of possibilities. We could be talking about physical or mental disabilities, the deaf and hard of hearing community, blindness, chronic pain, mental health diagnosis, goals of substance use reduction, and the list goes on. We all have our own experience with disability, whether it's our own or with people we know, or with people we encounter on a daily basis. Here at AbilityMKE Now, we break down the barriers and we celebrate the ability in all of us. So here we are again today with an amazing lineup. I am so excited for our guest today. I'm first of all going to bring in Emily Gomer to join the crew here as usual. Could you please introduce our first guest for us tonight?
Our first guest hails out of New York and is a co-founder with HELPipedia, which Kurt and I have been involved with for the last several months now. As they're looking to help youth, and there are a number of different chapters and that kind of thing. But I'm going to bring him in here to show everybody a little more about what HELPipedia is. So, Phil, what is HELPipedia?
Well, thank you, Emily, for the introduction, and as well, thank you, Sue, for having me. And my name is Phil Vetrano. I'm an independent college and career coach, and I help students prepare for the college and career process. And it is an overwhelming process, so I'm here to help. I'm a co-founder of HELPipedia. And what is HELPipedia? Well, HELPipedia is a nonprofit organization that is supporting and initiating and sustaining a youth, parents, and community movement to help students and parents prepare for life, school, college, and careers. And it's a co-op where we gather a lot of caring professionals who provide education in life skills, in well-being, and all the things good in life and necessary in life to be prepared for life. And so this is what we started, and we've got lots of chapters. And the goal, again, is to address the gaps that is not covered in the home or the school system. And there's lots of life skills that are not covered there. So we're helping address that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being with us again, Phil. We always love having you join us. I know we had you here once before with a little bit of background. So if people are interested in more, there is a link in the shows tab actually on River West Radio's show site. You just find AbilityMKE Now, and you can do a little deeper dive into HELPipedia and what it all is about. And it's amazing. I know Kurt's been doing a lot with you guys, and it's been fantastic. And I'm excited for where everything is going. The group and I'm kind of been on the fringe a little bit, but everything I've been gathering from all the pieces that there's a lot of exciting movement happening, and it's going far and wide, and it's fun to see what's all happening, and it's great. It actually hits home for us. We've got a 14-year-old, so venturing into high school next year. So a lot of these topics that is core here with HELPipedia is very relevant in our little corner of the world right now too.
Yeah, and we had a couple other HELPipedia members on recently too. So, I reminded them today that all HELPipedia members are welcome to join us on the shows. So
Absolutely.
Anyway.
There's a very wide range of expertise within that group. So it's a lot of fun just to catch all these pieces. And actually, Phil, you want to just share a little bit more about maybe what's your either maybe a favorite story or a person that's been impacted, or perhaps just somebody from the group that would be your first thing that comes to your mind here for highlighting.
Sure, I could talk about Keith Sensor and Coach T. His name is Antoine Thomason, and they do some incredible work. They have a podcast, and it's for teens. And so he has they get on teens who have overcome the challenges of some things that they've gone through, whether it be bullying, whether it be COVID, whether it be helping them figure out anxiety and things like that. And so it's incredible because adults can lecture kids all the time, but not necessarily does it resonate with them. But when a teenager is explaining the things that they've gone through, and it's really close to their age that, oh, they may be relating to it, and these are the steps that they've overcome. So they have the teenagers that are speaking about it, and they're advocates, and it really helps them shine. And interesting story, I met, her name is Wanda Howard, and she has a daughter who is homeschooled. And she talked about her daughter. She's in 4th grade, and she has her own podcast. So I connected. Awesome. Yes, she's a rock star. Her name is Emery Howard. And so I invited her to join Coach T and Antoine on the podcast. It's being released this week. And Keith gave me some details about it, and the 4th grader put Coach T in his place during the podcast, and it's his podcast, and he could not believe the advice because he was doing a Fonz impersonation of "Hey," and he's like, "That's how we communicate," and she's like, "No, that's not how you communicate." And so he was besides himself, and Keith Sensor is rolling on the floor, hearing this 4th grader correct Coach T about grammar and communication. And it was just fascinating. But so anyway, so this is great, a 4th grader, and she was bullied in kindergarten. And another quick story, she was bullied in kindergarten, and instead of her mom telling her what to do, her mom supported her and say, "Okay, I've never been in this situation before. I don't think I know what to do. Let's explore some options and strategies." So they went on YouTube and they went through a variety of different strategies. And Emery at kindergarten was assessing which one was a good fit for her. And the one of them, it was like the 10th video they saw, and one of the approaches was just to thank the bully. And so this was an effective way of the bully not knowing how to respond when someone's thanking them for being a bully. So this is the little nugget of information, and now it's gonna, she's running a podcast at 4th grade. I mean, this really shows you, teenagers, adults, nothing is impossible, and if you have your mind set to something, you can do anything. And so that it's just a wonderful story. Thank you for asking.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. Yeah. Sue, I believe Kurt and I are going to be meeting with Wanda sometime soon here. So maybe that's going to be a part of that. But if Alana and her friends want to be part of a podcast, if they're interested.
That could be interesting. Because as you're saying, that I'm actually really impressed that the parent took that path of saying, let's look into this. Let's come up with some ideas. Because as a parent, it's so easy to just swoop in and try to fix everything or try to fix everything. From my perspective, that doesn't mean that works for them, so that's brilliant. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I love that. That's so awesome. And Emily, I'm wondering if you would be so kind as to bring in our next guest here as well to join the conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's get to our next guest. Kurt and I just met with him recently, and he is out of California and has a disability and helps build websites and things like that. So, Nate, why don't you briefly introduce yourself?
Thank you, Emily. I'm so glad to be here. I'm excited to be here, and had a great time meeting with Kurt and Emily. And so what I do is I'm a web designer, and I make websites accessible to all, including the disabled and however somebody identifies themselves. And it's I also have been able to donate that service to nonprofit organizations so that those websites are accessible. And it's really cool how it works. There's a button that goes on the side. When you click on that button, you can adjust the website to what you need. Maybe you need more contrast, maybe you need less. Maybe you have a screen reader. Then you don't push the button, you push a button on your keyboard when you have a screen reader. Because if you don't see the screen, you're not going to see the button. And then, you can make it keyboard navigation possible because some people with motor impairments need that. And the ADHD, epilepsy, the list goes on. Just even somebody who wants to be able to see the font better can use it. See the text, enlarge it a little bit, highlight it. So I'm really excited about it.
Excellent. And so is this something you created? Is this something you found? Is it, because that's amazing. That can help so many people by having that piece.
Yeah, I did not create the software for it, but I found it.
Okay.
And what it is it's really a pretty simple thing to get it on somebody's website, and all websites can have it. Doesn't matter the platform, WordPress or whatever. They can have that. They can have that service.
That is fantastic. That can help so many people. This is again one of these things where until it's something that it comes in front of you and is affecting you somehow, where you know what, I need help with this website. I can't see it. There's something that they need adjusted to be able to be functional best for them. Until that actually happens, or to either to you or someone you don't even think about these things, right? So
Exactly.
I'm so glad that you have a solution, because that's where you get into. I like to think I'm kind of techie, but I'd be so lost. I don't know where to even begin on something like that. So I'm going to ask you a similar question about if you had any favorite stories or something that you've encountered with being able to provide this type of thing where it's really made a difference for somebody you know. I'm going to just turn it back to you and see what you'd like to share.
Well, I got it. I got this service on a website for an organization called Shared Adventures. I donated to them. And Shared Adventures is an organization here in Santa Cruz, California, that provides adventures for people differently abled. They go kayaking. They they take the beach and they put a bunch of plywood down, tons of plywood, so that people in wheelchairs can access the beach.
Awesome.
They have great music, food. And that's just one of their activities. They have others throughout the year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, now their website is accessible to all.
That is such a great service. That's amazing. Oh, and I'm kind of excited to hear about another group like that too. There's in Milwaukee here. There's a group basically called the Ability Center. It is not physically a place yet, but it's coming. I just heard that there's a groundbreaking ceremony coming up in the end of July. So I'm so happy they finally reached that mile marker. But what made me think of them was what you're saying about the beach. They had done something similar here with making the beach accessible, because we're right on Lake Michigan. So there's a massive beach. The water's kind of cold, but there's a massive beach that is wonderful, and it's all sand. It's great, but you can't exactly go on it with a wheelchair, or even I can imagine many other devices for mobility. To be able to maneuver in the sand is very difficult. Even those of us who think we got 2 solid feet under it sometimes find it difficult, right? So they have something similar set up out there where it is accessible, and it's amazing. So that's fun to hear that over by you they've got something going on that's like that too.
Or and then I like the idea of offering to nonprofits. your whole thing to nonprofits too. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you, Emily. Yeah, it's available for free to nonprofits. So if your organization there in Wisconsin has a website, we can certainly make it accessible.
We'll have to connect you guys and see. I'm not familiar with what they have. I've been on their website, but again, it's not something I've had to think about, right? That's why I'm glad we do this, because it gets people thinking that next step of, oh yeah, that might be important to a lot of people. So that's fantastic. I will definitely take a look at that. I made a note here. So, and actually, I know Nate and Phil, this is the first you guys have had a chance to meet. So do you guys have any questions for each other?
Oh, it's wonderful that Nate has that, provides that service. So we have a special needs chapter. So that could be right in line with an improvement on our website to have that feature, because I think that's really valuable. And then there's other web developers that I know, and I'm not sure if they're familiar with the tool that you have, and I could connect you with them, because that's knowledge that could be shared across folks to open up that feature.
That's awesome, Phil. I'd love to get involved in that. And, my goal is just that all websites be accessible, all of them.
Outstanding.
That's perfect. Yeah, I can see actually some complementary things between what Phil and Nate with what you're doing, that there could be some real good connections here, because with what HELPipedia is. And well, actually, Nate, I should ask more with your background then. Do you have like a computer science background, or how did you get into what you're doing?
Actually, I used to be a speech therapist, and I retired from that. Yeah, a speech therapist. And so I retired, and then I had time on my hands. I retired due to disability. So I had time on my hands, and I thought, I'm going to get on the computer and see what I can do. And I started building websites, and it was really fun. And it bloomed from there.
That's fantastic. And Phil, with what you're doing with students and whatnot, can you see a place for potentially with what Nate is doing where that could be, perhaps he could be a resource for the group?
Absolutely. I mean, we're always looking for mentors. So if Nate would like to be a mentor or provide support for a student who's going down that path of either speech pathology or web development, that would be great for him to participate and support that. We have Saturday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We have Is This My Dream Job? And so we're connecting students with professionals so that they know and understand what they're signing up to before they dive in without the knowledge and insights of professionals who do this for a living, and the history that they have to gain, because they're not teaching the history of web development in high school. They're not teaching the history of speech pathology in high school. So these are blind spots for kids, and why not provide them with the opportunity to learn more before they think that they want to do this. And I could tell you stories about students who had these ideas in their head, and then you open up the door to them, and all of a sudden they either don't want to go through it or they don't want to hear anymore, and now they've just changed their major.
It's amazing. I know even with what I do at the university, I'm not that closely involved with that end of things, but the number of students that come in that have an idea maybe of what they want to do, but they really have not had that opportunity like that to understand that if you want to go way back to when I went to college, same thing. I thought I knew what I wanted to do. And then when I got there, I'm like, okay, that's not exactly what I thought this was. Kind of. I'm in the right realm, but nope, left turn, and I had to make some adjustments with what I was doing, because you don't know till you get there, unless you find somebody like Phil who has HELPipedia. It has all these people that are there, and that's where reaching out and understanding that is huge. So is that actually, Nate, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear what you're doing, Phil. Just all the different programs for these youth, and it's wonderful, and I'd like to find out more about it.
Nate, yeah, absolutely. We could connect after the show, or I could keep talking about it.
If you want to keep talking, share a little bit more. If you got it, I love stories too. So if you want to share a couple stories of what's happened along the way, that'd be amazing too.
Sure. So recently, I had a student who loves creative writing, and so he's an avid book reader, and he wants to be an author, wants to publish his own work, and he's never connected with an author. So in one day, I connected him with 2 authors, And, he was extremely excited, extremely thankful for the opportunity I gave him. And he asked great questions. He was prepared. So that's one of the examples of us, making a difference and an impact. And it's opening up doors. And I said, imagine if you're meeting an author every week. Wouldn't that be great? And so this is something that, but he never had that goal before he met me. And so I'm introducing these concepts to them to properly plan for their future instead of being afraid of their future. So I was excited to do that. Thanks.
I love that. Yeah, that having that chance to do that. And actually, I think if I'm remembering correctly too, like LinkedIn has been a great tool for that, being able to find people that, for example, I'm hooked up with, 800 people, whatever the number is now. And within that network, how many would fall into one of these categories of a student that's interested in possible career paths? Could I introduce them and have that conversation that could make such a difference? It's huge. I'm excited for what you're doing because it makes so much sense. Why isn't this happening more?
Because
awesome.
Yeah, it's because society says you figure it out, right? So all the school, there's not a support system for kids to get the necessary help and guidance. The focus is the high school diploma. The focus is not their purpose, and they don't have individual support. And in this question of, Mark Twain said, there's two best days of your life, the day you're born and the day you figure out your purpose. Well, if 8th graders to 12th graders don't have that as a goal, they're just going through the motions of life and hoping it all goes well. And even in college, they're just going through the motions. And 42% of students who go to college will not graduate in 6 years. And so they really need to be prepared and not waste a lot of time to try to figure it out. And that's what the parents will assume is, they'll figure it out when they get there. Well, if you've never done something before, how are they going to figure out when they get there? So it's really, it changes the mindset of parents when I'm talking to them that say, well, why didn't I think of that? It's because society just keeps going in the assumption that you as the individual must figure this out. And 80% of adults are not happy with what they do, but we could change that with these great strategies and plans and support to help each other. Imagine that. Thanks.
Imagine that. And that's the hard part. People don't know what they don't know. So how do you know what question to ask sometimes? Because it might be right in front of you, but if you've never had this thought process before, how do you get there? And you're right that there's a lot of assumptions that take place. So again, working at the university, there's students there, freshmen through seniors. Okay, so at what point does somebody actually learn it's a very small detail here, but it's actually a really big one. An undergraduate degree versus a graduate degree, and just understanding what, if nobody's ever actually described what that is, that, your undergrad, that's your bachelor's degree, beyond, or associate degree. And beyond that, if you want to go for your master's or your PhD, then now you're talking graduate school. Because the number of times I've talked to students who are in college and are like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, and I think there's just this grand assumption that people have heard this somewhere. And so often that's not the case. And again, it seems like such a small thing, but when you're in the middle of it and you don't even have that basic piece in front of you, it makes my head spin sometimes, and that's where I actually love what I do, where I do get to interact with students usually for their full 4 years while they're at the college where I am. And I love it because I get to be a kind of a safe place where they can ask any question. I tell them from day one, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Ask me anything. If I don't know, I will tell you I don't know, and I will help figure it out. But it's always, yeah, what can I do to help? What resource can I be? How can we make life good? How can we make things better? And yeah, it's a big thing.
Excellent. Can I ask you, Sue, how many students, here's a really good question. How many students keep in touch with you?
Ooh, actually, so that's the magic of Facebook, right? That's the easiest way to stay in touch. and not all of them are on Facebook, but of the ones that are on there, actually a lot. A good percentage of those that come through, because with my position, I end up having anywhere between like 20 to 40 work study students that work and I'm their supervisor. So I get to know them pretty well because a lot of them are there for all 4 years. And so I've been invited to weddings. I get to see, after they're all done and they move on. I'm every so often I'm scrolling in Facebook and I'm like, oh my gosh, but she had a baby. I get to follow their life after they leave, and still stay in touch with so many. And we've even had a few years ago we had a bowling fundraiser for our ski club, and I sent out information. I actually went out and I tried to invite everybody that might be local, including students that had graduated, and several came. It was like a little mini reunion. It was so much fun. So you do get to develop good relationships along the way, and I'm guaranteed they all know if they had a question, if I could be a resource, they would reach out, and I love that.
Outstanding. Thank goodness for Facebook, because do you think that you would get phone calls if it wasn't for Facebook?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe a text, maybe. Probably not a phone call. Be a little more unusual. But yeah, I love it. It's all about relationships, and that makes such a difference. And Nate, with what you're doing too, you're creating the relationships, basically opening up so many doors where people can now access websites and information that they couldn't otherwise. So I'm grateful for what you guys do and what value you bring, because it's huge. So I'm just going to throw it back to each of you, just to maybe 60 seconds apiece. Any kind of last thoughts you have, or any kind of take-home message that you would like to share. Nate, should I start with you?
Sure, Sue, thanks. Yeah, basically, I think we owe a lot to the ADA to bring our awareness to these needs. And so I make websites accessible, and they are compliant with the ADA, because it says that websites or any public service should be accessible.
I love that. Yeah, because I think this year is the 33rd anniversary of Americans with Disabilities Act, which it truly took an act of Congress for those doors to open up and make it be a reality that's a real thing. And what you're doing is so important for that. So thank you so much, Nate. And Phil, over to you.
Yeah, I would say if there's a lot of parents listening, one of the most important messages that I have is to think about creating a support system for your kids. And a support system is surrounded by mentors that you trust, and professionals who have expertise, because there's no parent 101, there's no parent 102. So there's a lot of best practices that you're not applying because you're not an expert in this. You're doing what you're doing in your career, and you could absolutely share that knowledge with your son or daughter about your career if they are interested in that endeavor, in that activity. However, but if you're starting to groom them when they're young to talk to adults about what they do, because that Mark Twain quote, if you take that to heart, that the 2 best days of your life is when you figure out your purpose. Don't you want the same for your child, to figure out your purpose? Because when you do, life gets a lot easier, because you're focused, you're engaged, you're tackling on those topics and subjects that you enjoy, and you're connecting with other professionals who also enjoy that, and things get a lot easier when you love something and that you want to do it. And even if it's really a difficult career, let them give it a try. Help connect them to those opportunities, and maybe they won't like it. I had a student wanted to go for astronomy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys. You are the best. And for those of us here with AbilityMKE Now, we thank you.